The Nothing Phone 3 is officially here, and boy did it bring a lot of controversy. Now, I would say that it's been a mixed bag of reviews in terms of what people think of the design, but for the most part, I've only seen a lot of negative. And I can't lie, it's different. It's really different. I feel like Nothing might have overcooked a little bit on this design, but that in and of itself is something that I'm okay with. Now, whether or not I think they did that successfully, I'll save that for later in this video. But for now, let's jump into what makes the Phone 3 so controversial. What are people up in arms about? Is it just the design? And do people have a right to be concerned about a lot of what this phone is doing? So earlier last week, Nothing did indeed announce the Phone 3 on July 1st. And if a lot of you are on Twitter, you will have known that the designs actually leaked a good bit before this. It was kind of funny to see how split Twitter was too in believing that these were the actual designs. There was a lot of people actually thinking that these were just either fan-made mock-ups or early renditions. For me, all the released images looked way too official for them to be fake, so I kind of had a feeling that they were the actual designs, and lo and behold, they were. And it's definitely, to put it simply, different. Now, Nothing has been known for their clear backs, their irregular designs, their intricate details. Specifically, the lights of the glyph system on the backs has truly set them apart in the past few years, and arguably is one of the biggest reasons why they became so iconic and made them so distinguishable in a smartphone world that right now has a lot of the same design going on. And that alone, I think, is why Nothing has stood out, is just because they're different, they're cool. I love them myself. In fact, my first ever Android phone was the Nothing Phone 3A. And because of this one, it made me branch from my iPhone to the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. So because of this phone, it made me realize that there's actually a little bit more than iOS out there. And that's because Nothing did a really good job on this device, this mid-range phone, in making it feel pretty premium for its price point. But on top of that, it's just fun to use. I'm big on aesthetics, I love awesome designs, and this is no exception. Now, the 3A sports a glass back and plastic side, so it's not your premium flagship stuff, but it still felt great in the hand, and I honestly love using this thing. And so the Phone 3 was being marketed by Nothing as one of their true flagships, and so I think it set a lot of high expectations for people. A lot of those expectations that I think are actually being met. With that being said, let me just rattle off the general stats of the Phone 3 real quick. Off the bat, you are getting the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4, and this was one of the big complaints of this product, was the exclusion of the Snapdragon 8 Elite. I'm not gonna pretend like I know the Android chips through and through, because I've been an Apple guy my whole life, and I've just recently been exploring Android, but what I will say is that it's an interesting approach to put not the best chip in your flagship when you are now bumping up into a market of a lot of really good devices. Nothing Phone 3 is going to ship base at $799 for the 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, but bumps up to $899 for 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. So again, it's putting it in this market of devices that have those elite chips like the S25 series. So it is interesting that they would go for something less than. What I believe they have been saying is they are shooting to achieve some really good battery life with this, because this will also ship with a 5,150 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery. And based off what they're saying with the software optimization and everything in this chipset, is that it's going to be able to produce some really good battery life. But aside from that, you are getting some flagship level spec. You get a 6.7 120 Hz AMOLED display on this thing, glass back, your aluminum sides, water and dust resistant to an IP68 rating. You're getting your in-screen fingerprint scanner, and you're getting 4 50 megapixel cameras on this device, 3 on the back and 1 on the front. Both your main and telephoto lenses are going to have OIS, but your 50 megapixel ultra wide does not. And your video recording is going to cap out at 4K 60 FPS. You're getting 65 watt wired fast charging with this, as well as 15 watt wireless, and will have full eSIM capabilities. Okay, so those specs are good, aside from the controversy with the chip, like I talked about, and the price being, as high as it is, it's putting it in that market. I feel like they're still delivering that flagship experience with what they're shipping in this phone. So why are people so up in arms about this phone? Is it just strictly the design? Because, well, I wouldn't blame them if it was. It just seems like they might have overcooked this a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. I think they were just trying to lean into what made them them, what made Nothing Nothing. It's these awesome, weird designs, and I think they just tried to overdo it a little bit. For starters, the glyph interface is gone. There are no lights on this thing, which what I talked about earlier was one of the main reasons, or one of the main signs of having a Nothing phone. It stood out, it was different. Instead of that, they are introducing the glyph matrix, which, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think is going to be that useful. There are a lot of cool use cases for it, I'll be honest. I think the most functional one just being to display time, but I feel like a lot of what you can do with the glyph matrix, you can just do by flipping your phone real quick in the first place. That is just where I'm coming from in my 100% honest opinion right now. It is cool that they are opening it up to the community to make different use cases for the glyph matrix, but like I said, I think the use cases are just going to be so minuscule that it's gonna be more gimmicky than anything, really. That being said, I do like the fact that you control it with a button on the back, so it keeps everything on the back of the phone. It does what it's supposed to do, which is to keep you from looking at your screen. But I feel like the glyph interface already did that, to where this is trying to expand that a little bit, but you get to a point where you're trying to expand it so much that you might as well just use the phone itself. I don't know, that's where I'm coming from right now for the glyph matrix without having used it, and I have actually pre-ordered this phone. So if you'd like to see videos of this phone when it first launches, be sure to subscribe. I'm gonna do my best to get things out as quick as I can. So I am open to this phone changing my mind about the glyph matrix, but for now, it screams more gimmick than anything. And then the rest of the phone is just kind of a cluster disaster of a design, in my opinion. I think they were trying to make it look like nothing else, and while doing that, they made it look like nothing else, but in its own very ugly way. I'm not sure why the top telephoto lens has to be not centered. It drives me insane a little bit, I'm gonna be honest, but it's so close to the edge that I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. Like I said, I'm open to this phone changing my mind once I see it, once I use it, but as of now, it doesn't even really seem like it fits in with the rest of the lineup. Like, you look at the 3A and the 3A Pro, I love these designs. The 3A Pro had a really wacky camera bump. It was an intentional chaotic design, and they pulled it off quite well. Whereas with this, it kind of looks like someone just took some hardware pieces, shook them up and rolled them on the table, and then they went with wherever they landed. That was the design. It looks a little too random in my opinion. The flash being in its own little circle too is just like, there's too many circles going on with the glyph matrix, and then that, I feel like the flash just could have been integrated somewhere without its own circular design. The one thing I will say about this design that I do love is the fact that they made the red square a record light now. I think that's really cool to have on your phone. I think having a designated record light or indicator on the back of the phone is just good overall for the general public, because you can't record people in secret now. Granted, you can probably turn it off if you want to, but it's also just a good indicator that you are recording if you're trying to record yourself with the back cameras instead of the front. For that extra quality, you know you're actually recording and not just talking to nothing. I guess either way, you're talking to nothing because it's a nothing phone, but like, you know, you're not talking to just... Anyways, all in all, it's a very unique design, guys, and I know there's going to be people out there that like it. I think the general population has had the same reaction to it. It's different. It's very unique, and they branched out to try to kind of lean into their identity and try something new. And that's kind of how I want to transition into the last topic of this video, is that I prefer that they've done this. I'm glad that they put this phone out, because the smartphone realm right now, let's face it, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter where you look. Every single brand is either copying someone else or just doing the same thing. So as crazy as this design is, and as uniquely like chaotic as it is, I commend nothing for putting it out. I commend nothing for actually doing it. And who knows, maybe this phone does become iconic, and you know, it does flip around and it changes my mind once I get my hands on it. That's why it's important for companies to do this sort of thing, to press the envelope of what works, what doesn't. And you know, sometimes you'll get designs like this. I don't know that this will catch on, but as a company, I'd rather see that and then them improve upon it and release something next year, or you know, the follow-up product that delivers tenfold. If there's something I know nothing will do, it's listen to the community. That's what I've noticed them do a lot with their other products, and that's why I just like them a lot as a company. They give their actual consumers a kind of a voice and a say in the direction of how their products are going. While I don't know that anyone asked for this specifically, I know that the majority of us who appreciate nothing feel the same way that I do, and appreciate the fact that they did put this out and do something like this. And like I said, only time will tell if this is something that ends up working out. That is my take on the Nothing Phone 3, guys. Like I said, I will get my hands on this hopefully next week once it ships out. So if you're wanting to see videos on this device, be sure and subscribe. I've got a lot of videos planned for it. I'm actually going to rock it as my daily driver over the S25 Ultra for a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see the difference in performance between these two devices. But that is it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and of course, that is enough watching, enough consuming. Get out there and create something yourself. Go make your own video. I'll see you all in the next one.